Hello, in this video, we'll continue our discussion on empirical evaluation. So, in the last lecture, we discussed various ways of evaluating performance through benchmarks and different kinds of simulators. And finally, we end up concluding that what kind of average metric that we should use in the form of geometric mean of instructions per cycle. So in this lecture, we'll digress a bit and we'll talk about non-performance metrics in the form of power and energy. So I don't think I should spend more time describing what is energy and what is power. It's similar to what all of us know from our high school physics lectures. So just qualitative way of looking at energy and power from architecture point of view. So if you want to measure, let's say, the energy of power consumption of a particular processor or a memory system, so we can look at this plot where the y-axis is power in unit watt and the x-axis is time. And what it is showing is the rate at which the power is getting consumed, right? So if you try to quantify power and energy based on this particular plot, and this may be for various processors, memory, or whatever, right? So you can compare, let's say there are two systems, A and B, and you are comparing their performance, power, and energy numbers. So performance, you have this IPC, but now you have for power, right? So if you look at to quantify power, it's actually the height of this particular curve, right? So if I talk about this is the power, right? For this particular design, this is the power. It is pretty straightforward. That's the y-axis. The height of the curve will give you the power, right? On other end, if we are looking at the energy consumption, so energy, as we know, it's actually a usage of power over a period of time, right? So if you take care of the area under this curve, that will give you the energy, right? So you calculate the area here and area here, and you will get the energy, right? So with that, let's move on to metrics which can talk about both power and energy. So we already talked about performance in the form of IPC. So now if we need a processor or a system or a hardware unit, which should be power efficient also, so we should come up with a metric called performance per watt. Okay. And so you look at your performance improvement, and you also look at what exactly or how much power you consume to get that performance, right? Similarly, for energy efficiency, you can go for performance per joule, right? And so these are various trade-offs that you may play with depending on what exactly is your requirement, right? But before that, like, why exactly this particular metric makes sense? Why bother about power or energy, right? So simple example, we are using mobile phones, so that may correlate with the notion of power. If that is not sufficient, then you can think about the electricity bill, not on the various things that we are using at our house, but electricity bill that is used in huge data centers where millions of processors are running day in day out to take care of our request, right? So take the example of Google data center maybe. So all these things are also connected. So more power may dissipate more heat. So in that case, you have to spend more time in your cooling systems, right? And which means you have to spend more money and electricity in buying your ACs, right? What about CO2 emissions, which is kind of a worrying sign, yeah, especially from last few years. So can we design our processors, microarchitectures, which can emit CO2 at a reasonable level, or maybe completely CO2 free, right? So these are the trade-offs that you may get in the upcoming 5 to 10 years. So power, when I look at power, so there are two things from any microarchitecture that we will be talking about. So there is something called a dynamic power. Okay, so you can correlate with power when a unit is busy doing something. Let's say your processor is performing some ALU operation. So the ALU is actually busy doing the addition operation, let's say. So at the time, the transistors actually switch between the value 0 and 1, and that's why it consumes power, right? It's performing operation, and that's why it consumes power. So this kinds of correlate with your capacitance, voltage, and frequency. So if you drop the voltage, then this dynamic power will go down, because it's kind of proportional to the square of voltage. So from last 5 to 10 years, you'll see that the voltage level have been reducing in the processor and memory system, and that's kind of the primary factor in reduction in dynamic power. There is another part when you quantify your power, which is called the static or leakage power. So this is the power consumption when even your processor or a circuit or a microarchitecture unit is doing nothing. So what it means is, because there is current flowing through your circuit, even if the transistor is not switching between 0 and 1, it still consumes power. So this is a leakage or static power. So mostly you will find dynamic power is kind of the dominant factor, unless you are dealing with big structures like large memories, where even if you are doing nothing, the current is flowing through it, and that's why it's kind of contributing to the static or leakage power. So a simple example of the power consumption, just to give you a number to think about. So when Intel started with 80386, it was consuming only 2 watt. Intel Core i7, which is kind of there almost in every laptop now, if you're using an Intel machine, it's 130 watt, right? So look at the magnitude difference here, right? So the architecture community and the VLSI community has come up with so many techniques to reduce the power consumption. So we'll talk about it later in the course, where mostly they deal with controlling either voltage or frequency, and basically for controlling the dynamic power. And there are other ways of improving the static power also. So this is the example that I was talking about data centers. So you can correlate the electricity per year used from the data centers, and this is the number that you can correlate with various things, and you can see that how significant it is, right? So it means this problem is actually a bigger problem to solve, right? So talking about sustainability and CO2 emissions when you are designing your systems will be the problem for next few years. So that's why most of these companies are trying to becoming carbon free in next few years. So you can find all the big companies, right? And so that's the vision that all these companies have, and the systems folks and the architect folks have to play a big role in achieving this vision. So if you have looked at this particular quote from Satya Nadella, right, he talks about a cloud for everyone on every device. So this is kind of the population, the world population, and this is the world internet users, right? So still there's a gap. So imagine what happens when the entire world, all the countries, entire population starts using internet, right? What will be the impact on the CO2 emissions? More examples that you can go through, looking at these numbers maybe more minutely. This is from Netflix and Facebook, and you can actually try to correlate with how much carbon you kind of emit per year in tons, right? and that they're equivalent to the carbon emitted by, let's say, thousands of millions of cars. Okay, so with that, I will stop, and we'll continue our discussion on single cycle CPU in the next lecture, because now we have understood how to empirically evaluate, let's say, processor for performance, power, and energy. Thank you.